Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down one of the most powerful ideas in modern philosophy, John Rawls's theory of justice. It's basically a blueprint for how to build a genuinely fair society.
So let's just dive right in with the big question, right? It's a question people have been wrestling with for centuries. How do we, together, create a society that is truly, deeply fair for every single person in it? What are the rules?
Well, the heart of the problem, this justice puzzle, is a huge tension between two things we all really value. It's this constant tug-of-war between our individual freedom and the needs of the whole community. I mean, think about it. On one hand, you've got liberty. We want the freedom to live our lives, make our own choices, chase our own dreams. But on the other hand, we also want what's best for everyone, right? The greatest good for the greatest number. And believe me, those two goals can seriously get in each other's way. For a long time, the go-to answer for this puzzle was a philosophy called utilitarianism. And you can see why. On the surface, it sounds pretty simple, even noble. Just do whatever creates the most happiness for the most people. Easy, right?
Well, not so fast. As the philosopher John Rawls pointed out, there's a massive flaw here. If you follow this idea to its logical conclusion, you could justify trampling on the rights of a few people, a minority, as long as it made the majority happy enough. It kind of treats society like one big blob, completely ignoring that you and I are separate people with our own lives that matter.
So this huge problem is what led Rawls to come up with a totally brilliant way to figure out what's really fair. It's a method for building a just society from scratch, at least in our minds.
He asks us to imagine something he calls the original position. Picture this. It's like we're all at a meeting to write the Constitution for a brand new society before it even exists. We're all there to agree on the fundamental rules that will govern everyone.
But here's the twist, and it's a huge one. To make sure our choices are truly fair, we have to step behind what Rawls famously called the veil of ignorance.
Now, behind this veil, you know absolutely nothing about who you're going to be in this new society. You don't know your race, your gender, if you'll be rich or poor, what your religion is. You don't even know if you'll be naturally talented or face challenges. All these things, Rawls argued, are morally random. They're just luck, and luck shouldn't decide what's fair.
So, if you don't know where you're going to land in society, what kind of rules would you pick? Well, Rawls argues you'd play it safe, you'd be risk-averse, and the very first thing you do is protect yourself by agreeing on two main principles, starting with the absolute most important one.
First things first, you would lock down a rock-solid guarantee of equal rights and freedoms for every single person, no exceptions. You'd want to make sure that no matter who you turn out to be, your most fundamental rights can never be taken away.
And we're not talking about some vague ideas here. We're talking about the concrete, non-negotiable stuff. Freedom of speech, the right to vote, freedom of thought and religion. These are the rights you demand because you just don't know if you'll end up in the majority or as part of a minority that needs protection.
And this is absolutely crucial. Rawls calls it lexical priority. It means this first principle doesn't just come first in line, it has total priority. You can never trade away these basic freedoms for anything else, not for more money, not for economic efficiency, nothing. Liberty comes first, period.
Okay, so once our basic liberties are secure, what's next? Well, we have to deal with the fact that in any society, some people are going to have more money and status than others. So how do we handle those inequalities in a fair way? That's where the second principle comes in.
The first part of this principle is called fair equality of opportunity. And it means way more than just saying, hey, the race is open to everyone. It means we have to make the starting line fair. It means that where you start in life, your family's wealth, your neighborhood, shouldn't rig the race from the beginning. Society has to do things like provide good schools for everyone to make sure talent and hard work can actually pay off.
Now, the second part is maybe the most famous and radical piece of Rawls's whole theory. It's called the difference principle. And it says this: differences in wealth and income are okay, but only if they are set up to give the biggest possible advantage to the person at the very bottom of the economic ladder.
Let's make this real. Look at this chart. In society A, everybody's perfectly equal. They all make $20,000. In society B, things are very unequal. But under Rawls's theory, we'd actually choose society B. Why? Because the person who's worst off is still doing better, making $30,000 than they would be in the perfectly equal society. Inequality is only justified if it helps to lift up the very bottom.
Okay, so this is all really interesting philosophy, but does it actually matter in the real world? Absolutely. These principles aren't just for textbooks. They give us a powerful way to look at our own laws and our own society and ask, are we being fair?
Take that first principle, liberty. It's not enough to just have rights on paper. To make sure our political liberties have fair value, we need policies that stop money from totally dominating politics. So things like campaign finance reform suddenly become a requirement for justice so that everyone's voice can be heard, not just the wealthy.
And what about fair equality of opportunity? Well, that second principle points directly to policies like high-quality public schools for all and access to basic health care. These aren't just nice things to have. They're essential for making sure everyone truly gets a fair shot in life, no matter what family they were born into.
And finally, that radical difference principle gives us a really strong moral reason for things like a social safety net or progressive taxes. These policies aren't about charity. According to Rawls, they're about fairness, about making sure the whole economic system works to benefit everyone, especially those who have the least.
So, when you put it all together, what do you get? You get a blueprint. Rawls shows us how to solve that initial puzzle. His two principles create a society that fiercely protects our individual freedoms, while at the same time making sure the economy is designed to be a fair game that works for the good of all.
And that really just leaves us with one final, pretty challenging question. If you were back there, in the original position, behind that veil of ignorance, not knowing if you'd be rich or poor, powerful or marginalized, would you agree to the rules of the society we have right now? It's something to think about.